moving in the heart of this nation under skies so blue. There's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true, from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea. We stand for liberty, for faith and family.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take the sources you send us, dig in, and pull out the key insights. Basically, helping you get informed without getting buried in information.
That's the idea.
So today, we're looking at an article from ZeroHedge. It features an interview with Martin Armstrong.
Ah, yes, Armstrong. Often called a legendary financial and geopolitical cycle analyst.
Right, and he's known for that predictive computer program, Socrates. Our mission here is pretty straightforward. Unpack Armstrong's main predictions from this article, especially about what might happen in Europe. We're just trying to understand his perspective, his reasoning.
Absolutely. It's about exploring one particular viewpoint. You know, Armstrong definitely has a track record, according to this piece, with some big calls in the past. This interview seems to lay out some potentially significant shifts he sees coming.
Yeah, let's get into that. The article does mention his past predictions, things like the '87 crash, the dot-com bust.
The 2008-2009 Great Recession, too?
Right, and even apparently predicting a Trump landslide in the upcoming election. So the article sets him up as someone with, well, a history of making these calls. What's he seeing now going forward?
Okay, so according to the article, Armstrong believes a global recession actually kicked off around May 7th of last year.
May 7th, wasn't that?
Yeah, the piece notes it coincided with Putin's inauguration, and there was also that alleged assassination attempt on Zelensky around the same time.
Interesting timing. And how long does he see this recession lasting?
He forecasts it probably bottoming out around 2028, but what's really key here is that he doesn't see it hitting everywhere equally.
Right. It's not a uniform thing. He sees Europe getting hit the hardest, like a potential depression.
Exactly, a depression for Europe. Then China, he thinks, is looking at a sharp recession.
And the U.S.
Less severe, according to him. Yeah. Still a recession, but not as bad as Europe or even China. It's quite a divergence.
It really is. What's his reasoning for that difference? Why Europe so bad?
It boils down to debt. He argues that a real depression isn't primarily caused by, say, the stock market falling.
Okay.
It's triggered by a debt crisis.
Yeah.
His quote is something like, when you create a debt crisis, that's what causes a depression. The stock market going down is the least damage.
Oh, so the debt is the real danger.
That's his view.
Yeah.
And he sees Europe as sitting on, well, trillions of dollars of unpayable debt. Basically, owing so much they can barely afford the interest payments, which then spirals.
Okay, now this leads to maybe the most striking claim in the article. He says, point blank, Europe does not want peace. That's quite something.
It is a very strong statement. And his reasoning, as presented in the article, is kind of alarming. He suggests European leaders need a war.
Need it. Why?
To distract their populations from this massive debt problem. He's quoted saying, the leadership knows if they don't have war, the people will come after them. So war as a political diversion, essentially.
Wow. Okay. And it gets even more specific, doesn't it? He mentions contacts.
Yeah, he claims to have very good contacts very high up, suggesting the EU leadership actually believes they can, well, conquer Russia.
Conquer Russia. Seriously.
And gain control of its resources. He throws out a figure of $75 trillion in natural assets. The idea, apparently, is this would somehow relaunch Europe as a global power.
That sounds incredibly ambitious, almost fantastical.
It's certainly a bold interpretation of the situation, but it's important to note Armstrong himself doesn't buy it.
Right. He thinks they're wrong about that.
Completely.
Yeah.
He predicts the EU will lose big time if they try that. And interestingly, he predicts the euro will disappear, not the dollar.
The euro disappearing. That's another huge call. So thinking about the timeline for potential conflict, when does he see things really heating up?
He points to a specific time frame. He says after May 15th, so very soon, war is turning up in Ukraine, and it will be turning up into 2026. He sees a significant escalation coming.
After May 15th.
Okay.
And that suggests not much hope for a peace deal anytime soon then.
Doesn't sound like it, no. He frames it from Putin's perspective, basically saying, why would he sign a deal now?
Because of past experiences.
Yeah, he brings up that 2015 agreement. The quote is, Putin signed a peace deal in 2015. And what did they do? They built an army while Russia didn't. So the implication is there's no trust there for a lasting agreement.
Which leads to the next big question, China's role in all this.
A huge factor. Armstrong predicts China will align with Russia as things escalate.
Okay.
And this is where the forecast gets particularly grim. He follows that prediction with a potential consequence of, well, 1 billion dead and wounded.
1 billion. That's staggering. It really paints a picture of a potential global conflict on an almost unimaginable scale.
It does. It underscores the gravity of the situation as he sees it unfolding.
So, given this bleak outlook, especially for Europe and the potential for global conflict, what's his advice for the U.S.?
It's very direct. He says U.S. leadership should get the hell out of NATO.
Leave NATO.
That's his recommendation. He also suggests, though the article doesn't elaborate much, that this idea is gaining some traction in Washington.
And why leave NATO? What's the strategic thinking there, according to him?
It connects back to economics, actually. He predicts that if the U.S. were to pull out of NATO, capital would flood out of Europe and into the U.S. Investors would see the U.S. as the safer haven away from the European conflict zone.
Ah, okay. A flight to safety, essentially. Makes sense in that context. What about gold? In times of turmoil, people often look to gold. What's his prediction there?
He sees gold going up significantly, possibly hitting $5,000 an ounce.
5,000. Wow.
But, and this is key, he ties that directly to the war in Europe and Ukraine escalating. It's not just a general prediction, it's contingent on that conflict getting worse.
Okay, so no major escalation, maybe no $5,000 gold in his view.
That seems to be the implication in the article.
And shifting slightly, he also touches on U.S. domestic politics, something about the Democrats.
Yeah, just briefly. He predicts the Democrat Party will split or fracture in some way.
A split.
And following from that, he doesn't see them regaining control of the House of Representatives in the 2026 midterms.
Interesting. Adds another layer to his outlook. And there was one more potential conflict zone mentioned, wasn't there?
That's right. Pakistan and India. He says his Socrates program predicts that situation blows up.
So another major flashpoint potentially igniting.
According to his analysis, yes.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together. Based on this ZeroHedge article covering Martin Armstrong, we're looking at predictions of a worsening war in Ukraine, possibly pulling in China.
Leading to potentially catastrophic casualties.
A really severe economic downturn, maybe a depression in Europe driven by debt.
Which he claims leaders might use war to distract from.
His advice for the U.S. to get out of NATO, potentially causing capital flight to the States?
Gold hitting $5,000 if the war escalates. A split in the U.S. Democrat Party and conflict between Pakistan and India. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And it's crucial we remember this is the perspective of one analyst, Martin Armstrong, as reported in this particular article.
Absolutely. It's one interpretation, one set of predictions in a world full of complex variables and, frankly, other viewpoints.
So thinking about all this, the question for you listening is maybe, what factors do you believe will actually be the most decisive in shaping things over the next few years?
Yeah, and how does this specific set of predictions from Armstrong line up with, or maybe challenge, your own understanding of where things might be headed?
It certainly underscores how interconnected everything is: economics, politics, potential conflicts. Our aim here was just to give you a clear summary of Armstrong's arguments from this source.
Hopefully a useful overview.
Thanks for diving in with us.
In the heart of this nation, under skies so blue, there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true. From the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.